This video is one of 3 in which I discuss issues relevant to the sexual abuse situation in the YouTube community. To watch the very important introduction video to these 3, click here, and to watch one of the other 2, click here and here. The links are also in the description. This video is about good guys and bad guys, about imagining others complexly, an idea which has been talked about at length by the Vlogbrothers over the years. And incidentally, the Vlogbrothers are a good place to start. In the midst of all the craziness on Tumblr last week, I saw one particularly interesting post between 2 friends. One was asking the other whether Hank Green was in fact a bad guy, because they hadn't seen a post yet from Hank publicly condemning Alex Day in the same way that another post seemed to publicly condemn Tom Milsom. And the friend replied saying, no, he's a goodie, it's okay. And I just was mind blown by how unbelievably simplistic this was. I honestly don't believe that we as a community and as a society haven't got past that childish view of good and evil. Now, I don't happen to believe that anyone is fundamentally good or fundamentally bad. There's a genuinely interesting philosophical debate to be had there, but let's leave that for another time. For the purposes of this video, let's just assume something which I think is reasonably safe, that everyone has both good and bad within them. Everyone does bad things, everyone makes mistakes, and yet everyone is at least capable of good. Hitler, for example, was a well-known animal rights enthusiast. And I'm not saying that makes him a good guy, I'm just saying there's some nuance here. I spoke in another of the 3 videos I've made today about the presumption of innocence and how we shouldn't just throw accused people under the bus. Partly because I don't think that practically gets us anywhere. I don't think that stops abuse from happening. I think it just allows us to sweep it under the rug more quickly. But partly because I think it's a mistake to write people off. Now, whether you believe in punishment as retribution or not, and for the record, I'm not really sure that I do, someone doing a bad thing, even if it's a terrible thing, doesn't mean that they are fundamentally bad. It doesn't mean that they are incapable of change, and it doesn't mean that they are incapable of contributing positively. It just means that they did something bad. And the first point that I would like to make in this video, whilst reiterating that I offer the utmost respect and support for those coming forward with accusations in this situation, is that even if the accused have done terrible things, it would be a mistake for us to write them off as fundamentally evil people. I've seen some very vitriolic, damning words being thrown around, and I think that's genuinely disappointing. I think we as a community should be trying to understand and learn from the experiences of the accused just as much as from the accusers. In fact, I think it's downright unhelpful and disrespectful to the accusers not to at least try to understand the other side of the story. And I mean that with no moral undertone whatsoever. I do not seek to justify the actions of the wrongdoers, but I do think we could learn a lot by trying to understand those actions. What motivated them? What allowed these things to happen? What circumstances were in place that we need to try to eradicate in future? Because I think anyone who knows or is friends with the accused will be confused and upset right now about how fundamentally intelligent, otherwise decent people could do such terrible things. And I think we owe it to ourselves as a community and as individuals to try to understand that, rather than taking the easy way out and just casting these people aside. Now, please do what you want with that thought. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm just trying to put something out there for discussion. Let's all try to think about it calmly and maturely if we can. Now, moving on, the other point that I want to make in this video is kind of the converse, that we shouldn't treat anyone as though they're perfect. There's this widely spread celebrity culture in the world, and certainly there's a microcosm of that in the internet world. It's very easy to look up to and idolize your favorite internet content creator. Additional thought recorded later, we're encouraged to do this for marketing purposes. That's what hype is. But it's more important than ever not to put your heroes on pedestals, because these days it's not so hard to meet them. It's not so hard to move in the same circles as these people you admire. I, for example, am an admirer of all 3 relevant parties in this discussion, Ed, Tom and Alex. I've been especially vocal in the past of my admiration for Alex, but it's very important to note that at no time have I admired him as a moral agent. I've simply admired him as a fellow internet musician, someone I can learn from. I've admired his achievements, his hard work, his content, but it would have been totally foolish for me to admire him as a person without knowing him as a person. And I've never met the guy. I think we should all have a long, hard think about how we admire the people that we admire. Are we admiring them for the high quality of the work that they do? Or are we imagining them to be some sort of moral example, someone to look up to as a person, when really we know so little about them? Everyone has both light and dark within them, and no one deserves to be put on that pedestal, because there's only one way that they're going to fall. Let's try and look at things in a more balanced way. It's for the best of us all. Here's that introductory video again, and here are the other 2 videos I've made on topics around this issue. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope that we can move on from this in a positive way together.